have decided to not go the traditional demand gen route. So we're not doing ads. We're not doing out of home stuff. It's really just organic content. And it's definitely been working the organic route. You don't have to spend a ton of money to kind of launch a brand.
Hello, I'm Carrie Gard, and welcome back to Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. Have you missed me? I've missed you all. I am here. We have a wonderful lineup in the next 4 weeks and counting, and I'm so excited to be back in the seat. What a guest we have kicking us off for Q4. I know that Q4 technically starts in October, but let's get real, folks. September is technically the beginning. So let's buckle up and hop on in. Valerie has led launches across her career, but Hopper's emergence from stealth this year felt different. She's helping redefine how we talk about security, cutting through noise, aligning engineering with security, and showing that security can actually be a business enabler. In our conversation, Valerie will share what it takes to position bold ideas in a crowded market, how to translate complex research into clear storytelling, and why humility and transparency are the heart of Hopper's brand. So grab your tea and let's jump on in. Valerie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
I'm curious, what's the hardest thing about leading within the stealth phase?
Oh man. Within the stealth phase, you're trying to kind of walk a tight line between still building some brand awareness, building up a little bit of momentum on the back end before you announce, but also not kind of giving it away, right? You don't want to announce too much before you come out of stealth because you take a little bit of air out of the sails when you announce ahead of time.
That sounds like a delicate balancing act.
It is a little bit delicate. I mean, with us at Hopper, what we were focused on is a lot of channel sales as well as a lot of prospecting conversations still. The CEO, Roy, he actually started those conversations more than a year ago. So we have paying customers for more than a year at this point, which is great because those paying customers also kind of helped us with in terms of being design partners. They really helped shape certain features within the product to be both what they're looking for on an enterprise grade level, and then also making sure it's very usable and it's actually solving problems. And so we spent a long time, and I say I've only been here since February, but the team that I work with, all of our engineers, they spent a very long time researching a ton before they ever went to market, before they ever started building anything. They researched, what other tools were missing, and so making sure that we stood out when we came into market with capabilities that actually meet market needs, kind of fill those gaps in the market where this like legacy tool set, software composition analysis, it's been around for like 20 years, but it hasn't evolved much in 20 years. And so really making sure
That's
that
fair.
we're sort of filling a gap there.
Yeah, that's really helpful to actually do the hard work of the research to lay the foundation before you start marketing, folks. Oh my gosh, what a concept. Anyway, I'll be off my high horse now. You said this launch felt different from the many you've done before. What made Hopper's emergence from stealth such a unique milestone specifically for you?
Yeah. So what's interesting is I have done a ton of launches. My career was primarily in the B2C space. And so I did a lot of um, launches and events and things like that were kind of taking a B2C brand that I would work with and kind of announcing a new product line, announcing new capabilities, or really just like like with HBO, they would do certain events around like movies and things like that, right? Um, and so in my cyber career, everything has been around product launches. So it's scaled back in a very different way. And so my next step was always I wanted to go step back from like a Series C, which is where I was at before with Jupiter One. I wanted to step back into a seed or earlier stage startup. I wanted to do a launch from stealth. It was always kind of like the next tick on the career box. And so this was really interesting because I got to be the person that pulled every string essentially. And as the sole marketer, you wear every hat essentially. And
Mhm.
so it was very, very interesting in terms of I knew everything that needed to go into it, but actually physically executing on every single piece is it's a ton of work. So
Yes. It's a lot of balls to hold up in the air and, like, not drop at the same time. I mean, it's no longer like I just had a great conversation with somebody about this last night, where advertising used to be, you buy TV ads, and you had a share of market, and you knew that if you spent 10% over the share of market, then you would have whatever uptick, and, like, that was just the math. And now it is so far from that simple, and as a sole marketer trying to activate all those channels to get that messaging out into the world, oh my gosh, you do not have an easy job by any stretch.
So it's
Not
also interesting because we have decided to not go the traditional demand gen route. So we're not doing ads, we're not doing out of home stuff. It's really just organic content and sort of content syndication through those organic channels. And that's one of the other reasons why it's felt very different. Like I have not built out traditional campaigns as you would see them in the last like 5 to 10 years. What I've
Mhm.
really spent the last 10 years doing in market. I haven't built out ads. I haven't built out, ad copy and search copy and things like that. It's really more about optimizing everything that we're doing for maximum visibility. We're using founder led social media, which is great. Our founder
Yes.
has a network of 30,000, which is amazing.
Wow.
And so we're trying to kind of lean on that. We also have some very wonderful, like hardworking engineers. Everyone on our engineering team, our design team, they all have like insane experience. And so bringing in their capabilities, using them for content creation has been, really, really key. And it's resonated in terms of like we've seen a lot of organic growth. It's been really great. We may decide to kind of phase up and start doing more in terms of traditional demand gen or kind of like today's demand gen. But it's definitely been working the organic route. You don't have to spend a ton of money to kind of launch a brand. So
Yeah, you just have to stay in the pocket and be consistent, and as I've been saying, feed the machine of it's not just publishing content, but it's being engaged within the LinkedIn community as well, which when you have something founder-led and somebody who can do that and speak to it, oh man, that is the dream. You're living the dream over there, Valerie.
I mean, I have to hold them all accountable. It can be a challenge because we are a startup.
Absolutely.
We're a small startup, and so we have we have customer roadmap things that are on the docket, and so we have to make sure that we deliver those. We have things that we're building for prospects, and we are primarily an engineering company. Like we've got 18 employees, of which only three of us are go to market.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of engineers. The primary focus is really just making sure we're building what our customers and prospects are looking for.
Amazing. Hopper entered the cybersecurity space that's already noisy with vendors, very noisy. How did you approach carving out a distinct narrative that would actually cut through? You started talking about this a little bit in terms of legacy. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do sit in a very noisy space. Like I said, SCA, software composition analysis, it's been around for like 20 years at this point. There are some very established vendors, but they haven't really evolved much in that last 20 years. And so reachability is a relatively new concept. I say relatively new, probably the last 5 to 7 years, maybe 5 years or so. But it's not that many companies do reachability. Um, and they don't do it at the level that we do it at, right? So there are a lot of flavors of reachability, as we like to call it. So there's like package level reachability, which is sort of like it reduces some of the noise, but it's not reducing all of the noise. And then there is function level reachability, which is what we do. And so what that does is it reduces the noise of vulnerability alerts. So if you're, in the cyberspace, essentially, one of your primary jobs is really just triaging vulnerability alerts. And if you can reduce that noise by 93%, like that's
Yeah.
already a huge head start, right?
Huge.
But one of the things that we really did to differentiate, and this is where I give so much credit to our engineering team because they're amazing. We built a function level reachability engine that essentially is able to interact with all of these really dynamic features within the within like the frameworks that they're building in. So Spring, which is like a Java framework that most enterprises run on, Django, Flask, ASP.NET, Fast API. These are all new things to me. I was not in AppSec previously, but it's one of those big differentiators for us is that we can handle all of the dynamic functions that they're able to do within these frameworks. And so things like reflection, things like shading, repackaging, naming, we're able to see because we build your software just like you would. So we actually go through and we can see what's actually reachable, what's actually exploitable, and then we're able to reduce that noise even more. And so while we say 93%, if you get down to like what's exploitable, what's actually seen, or um, you know shaded within like Java vulnerabilities and things like that, we can actually reduce the noise quite significantly, but we can also show you where they might be showing you false negatives, where they might say, hey, you don't have this vulnerability, but in fact, you do have it because it's shaded. And shading is essentially they like rename packages within the code. So that's getting like very technical, but
Yeah.
those are really our core differentiators, are really getting down into the technical way in which we do function level reachability. It's just completely different than anyone else in the market.
I understood that. I've been in cyber for, I don't know, 8 plus years, having worked with brands from Extra Hop to Qualys to a whole bunch others. Um, but when you're in the space and we talk about the importance of messaging and clarity and balancing the technical side with the approachable side, how are you doing that through your messaging? Or are you just talking to a really technical audience and it doesn't matter?
No, so that's a great question. We're trying to make it as approachable as possible because when it comes down to it, yes, our differentiators are highly technical. And so when I first joined the company, I spent a week in our office in Tel Aviv, and I actually sat down with our engineers and was like, "Okay, I need you to explain these really technical concepts that I've never been exposed to. Explain them to me like I'm your mom or your grandma. Like, how would you explain this concept to them?" And it's so funny. We came up with this analogy. Not we didn't come up with it because this analogy it exists in the world, but essentially there's like a meme video where this woman she has a shape sorter and she's like dropping shapes in the shape sorter, and every single wooden block shape fits in one hole. It's supposed to go in different holes, right? Like the triangle's supposed to go in the triangle, and the circle's supposed to go in the circle, and the square's supposed to go in the square. And instead, it's like she's just dropping everything. She's like, now the circle goes in the square hole. And you can just see her breaking down as it's happening, right? And so that's at its core level, that's one of our differentiators. Like we do what's called points to analysis, PTA. Other function level reachability vendors do CHA, which is class hierarchical analysis. Sorry, that's a hard word for me to say out loud. And
That's
so
a big one.
essentially, yeah, so essentially we put the shapes in the right holes, and they put the shapes in the circle hole, right, or in the square hole. And so because they tell you everything that could fit, right, versus we
Right.
tell you what's actually fitting, what's
Huh.
actually being executed, what's actually reachable, um, what's actually exploitable, right? And
Yeah.
so based on that, like, even against vendors that are direct competitors, we have a pretty significant competitive advantage. And we challenge any prospect to like come to us, try us out, like quite literally like test us for a day or two against another tool. It's like a 5-minute deployment. So it's not a hard thing to set up. Um,
That's huge.
yeah, and so we're like, just test us, and if we don't reduce the noise against your other competitors, like we're gonna
Mhm.
tell you, we'll tell you like, hey, they're a better fit for you, right? But
Yeah.
we've never lost a bake off in that way. So
I love it. Oh, yes, a bake off. It's, like, so cool you can even have a bake off because so many times I had someone on my podcast, um a few months ago who was talking about how it's good to have a free trial and a demo request because normally what'll happen is they'll go download the trial to see that it's an actually working product, not that they can actually use it yet, because to get it into their tech stack is moving mountains, and then once they can see it's an actually working product, then they will request a demo, and so for you, you actually have a working trial where they can that's amazing.
our deployment is 5 minutes. It's literally like you click, there's like a GitHub token, right? You put a token in, and then essentially that token connects to your repository in like less than 5 minutes, and then we auto discover, and it's continuous, and so literally like we discover everything. We have actually discovered like internal libraries that people didn't realize they had still, or abandoned projects and things like that. So
Ah,
it's actually really helpful because they just cleaning up the noise is also not just the noise, but like the infrastructure noise of just like excess stuff out there.
absolutely. That's amazing. In terms of Hopper's core promise, other than a quick test, is bringing engineering and security into alignment. Oh my gosh, I feel like they're speaking our language from a marketing and sales perspective. We feel you. We feel you, engineers and security teams. From a marketing perspective, how do you showcase that alignment in a way that resonates with both sides and is like a positive and a benefit to working with you guys?
Totally, yeah. So in terms of security and engineers in alignment, we are primarily a security tool, right? And so the idea here is that we're helping them triage so that they can pass tickets off, and they can pass call graph evidence or whatever it is over to developers. The challenge is like developers don't want to do this. They don't want to fix vulnerabilities. They want to build cool stuff, right? And when your ticket
No,
backlog
you're right.
is like miles long, which I've experienced in other companies, like you have this huge backlog, you're never going to get to it all. How do you properly prioritize so that you're actually getting stuff done? And so what we have is actually we have a call graph. And so what the call graph is it's line by line, tells you exactly how it's reachable, and you can click on the line and it will take you directly to your GitHub repository. It'll take you to the line of code. It tells you what you need to update, like version, package number, whatever it is. It tells you how to update it. And then you're done in minutes. We had one customer who it used to take them days to go through and triage everything and find where it was reachable and find, okay, this is how we actually need to fix it. And this is what the fix is without making a breaking change. And then he went from that to he found a vulnerable Java package, and it was fixed deployed within 20 minutes, which is huge. Like, and when you have an average, like a lot of times your average ticket cost can be like we just posted something the other day. It's like 500 to 4500 depending on how much triage, how much work it takes on that specific ticket. Tickets can cost an organization between 500 and $4500. If you're eliminating a lot of that work, think about how much you're saving. And if you're multiplying that by thousands of developers, you're saving hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. It's significant. So,
So much easier to sell when you have real tangible outcomes like that. So, eh, hats off to your team for figuring that out.
yeah. And then on the marketing to engineer side, which is also, I know that my fellow like cyber marketers always feel this pain. I always felt this pain of like trying to get engineers to kind of give you concepts and stuff like that. And so what I found is actually um, doing doing a ton of like brainstorming sessions with them and having conversations with them, and like I'm not just on an island over here. Like we're working together and we're doing things together. And I encourage a lot of our engineers who don't normally get a chance to like write blogs and things like that. Like, okay, give me an outline or give me some bullet points, and then I work with them. A lot of our engineers, though, love to write their own stuff, and so I
That's
give them
cool.
the platform to basically write what they're working on, and we work together to make sure that what they're writing resonates with the community. But obviously they're my target market. So, they're what they're writing is gonna resonate. So I just make sure it's not too
So
technical most of the time. So
yeah, little SEO enablement there. All good. All good. That's fantastic in terms of how you like it sounds like you really embodied your values, not just across security and engineering, but really as a whole company. And that's sounds like your founder is breathing all that into you guys, and that's amazing. And hats off to them for that. That's
I was gonna
wonderful.
say that's a really, really big part of what drove me to join Hopper. Our We have two founders, Roy and Oran, and the two of them together, they really set a culture that is, one that makes you excited to be at work every day. Like we were talking, Roy and I were talking at Black Hat, and it was like, you know, some of our engineers could probably make more money. They could they could go work for Facebook or Meta or Google or whatever. And
So
they choose to come to us every single day. And not only do they choose to come to us, they're excited about the work that they're doing. And it's such a great culture when you have that. Like when you wake up and you're excited to work. You're not like, oh, it's Sunday, like I have to go
yeah,
back to work on Monday. I never feel that way. So it's
culture
really
matters.
nice.
That
Yeah.
Yeah, culture totally matters. That's wonderful. Your in terms of, storytelling and research, your team uncovered you mentioned this, your team uncovered millions of hidden Java vulnerabilities, a technical finding that could easily get lost in jargon. How do you transform research like that into a compelling marketing asset? I can imagine trying to balance the whole FUD of it all is a
Oh,
delicate.
totally. Yeah. And it's also just staggering, right? When you're telling someone 2.5 million, they're like, how do I even begin to process that? And so, what we do is we summarize the data. I will say that like we utilize AI a lot. We are a small team, and so AI is like fantastic for data analysis. And so
Agreed.
going through and summarizing the data and like really knowing, okay, how can we group these vulnerabilities? How can we make this digestible? And so that's really what we did. We have the raw data of these like 2.5 million vulnerabilities, but I'm not going to like put them out there. One, because then that exposes all of those vulnerabilities. And two, and obviously makes them exploitable. But and two, it's just an overwhelming amount of information. Like no one's going to know what to do with that information or how to process it. But we do actually have an open offer to basically any engineer who thinks they might have these shaded vulnerabilities within their system. One, we talk about it and we tell you what's up, and then like where you can find them. But we have an open offer that if they want the CSV, like we need to kind of vet who you are, because obviously releasing that kind of data puts a lot
Sure.
at risk. They're all open source projects. And so because they're open source projects, it is, you can't go out individually to the different people who maintain those projects and have them fix these vulnerabilities. And so that makes it a little bit challenging because one, we don't want to expose all of this, but two, we don't want to, you know, put an undue burden on open source maintainers who may not have the bandwidth to fix it. So knowing that we can kind of provide the fixes to people, we provide it to all of our customers, and really anyone who's interested in it, we've got it as like an open source thing. Like you can come out to us, we'll tell you what it is. But going back to your original question of like how do you turn it into a marketing asset, it's really just again, explain to me like I'm five, right? So go through and explain like what is shading, Not everyone knows what shading is. What are jars or like Uber jars or fat jars? There's different versions of jars in which these packages can be hidden or shaded. And so explaining it at that level and then saying, okay, here's the data, and this is how you uncover it. That's really what we have found resonates. And the main thing is just making sure, like, I pass things off to my non-cyber friends. I'm like, read this. Can you understand it? Like, do you get the concept? Um, and so kind of having non-cyber friends to like bounce things off of has been really helpful as well.
I love that you're doing open source because the power of community, especially for developers, goes such a long way. So when you can feed and give back to them, oh man, are you winning loyalists for life. So hats off to your team in finding a way to give back so intentionally. That is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, all of our developers have been on the other side where they're the ones that have had to fix, they've had to remediate. Some of them are security researchers who have had to reverse engineer 0 days and things like that. So, being able to give them very clear evidence and like a direct link to the POM file or POM XML or wherever it is that they need to triage, giving them that direct link is huge because it cuts developer remediation time significantly. And that's really what it's all about. We're just trying to give developers back time to work on the things that they actually care about. They don't care about this
Oh,
stuff.
and
Like, that's why there's such
yes,
stress between security and engineering, is because like developers don't really want to triage stuff. And so, they
no.
have more interesting things to do.
Let me build. Let me build. All right, Valerie, we're gonna go in the Wayback Machine. We're gonna be kind rewind here and look at lessons from your previous jobs. Earlier in your career, it was rooted in experiential campaigns for brands like Nike and Coca-Cola. What lessons from the consumer marketing have proven most valuable in now your cybersecurity days?
Totally. So I actually did a talk about this last year at the Cyber Marketing Con, because I didn't realize that, coming into this market, experiential up until like the last 2 years was really not a thing. And so it's so interesting to bring that in to a B2B market. Experiential marketing is really just about creating that emotional connection with the buyer. B2B marketing, specifically B2B cyber, is just like fairly dry, right? And there are a lot of companies. Wiz does a great job of this. I've seen Pantera and a couple others start to bring this in as well. I did this a lot at Jupiter One, but really coming in and telling a story and creating that emotional connection rather than just like throwing your marketing headlines on a booth or throwing them, at your customers. And so the idea is really just, you want to create that emotional connection, and you create that emotional connection by creating unique experiences that engage more than just like one or two senses. And the idea there is that the more senses that you engage, the more memorable the experience is. And what that does is actually, it makes them more likely to remember you, right? And so we did this in the very early days at Jupiter One with neon green pants. I quite literally made my entire team wear them. We all hated them because they are neon green pants and they are not flattering on anybody. But when you're walking around a massive conference and everyone's in jeans and khakis or black slacks, neon green pants are going to really stand out. And so when you're doing follow up and you're saying hello from your friends in the neon green pants, like, they're going to remember that, right? And so pulling in those B2C type touches has been really kind of game changing for us in terms of how we market in cyber. And I love brands like Wiz who are embracing that. Like their team, they're pros at experiential. Like, it's just amazing. And so I love seeing that because those are really B2C tactics. Like, influencer marketing was very much a B2C tactic. I was doing influencer marketing 15 years ago, right? But
Mhm.
it was on the B2C side rather than on the B2B side. And so seeing some of these tactics pulled in, because ultimately your B2B buyer, they're a person. They create those emotional connections. Like, that's what they buy on. They buy on emotions, they buy on relationships. So
Totally. Neon green pants. I love how it's such a simple tactic too. It's not like this big, immersive undertaking. It's like this really simple, just accenting the senses and becoming a little bit more memorable in the noise. So good. So good. Uh, in terms of building with humility, you've described Hopper's build process as transparent and humility driven. How do you ensure that philosophy shows up not only in the product, but in the brand voice as well? Like, what is
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have a head of design, Liz, who is just amazing. Like she has really been thoughtful about how she presents our brand voice. And she is our head of design. So she does both product and brand. And so not just when she was building out the brand logos and the guides, like in terms of like what our typography is, all of those things really embrace this voice of we want to be curious, we want to be helpful, we want to be clear in the way in which we are communicating. And one of the things that I really appreciate is like our CEO Roy has been very focused on and very intentional about building a company that has women in it, building a company that it's the company's named after Grace Hopper, who was a pioneer
I
in
should
computer
know.
science. Yeah, and so being very intentional about those things and pulling that same voice into the content that we write, the posts that we do on LinkedIn, and just making sure like it's very clear we're not trying to be too cool. We're not trying to be, overly stuffy and professional. We're just trying to be helpful. And that's really the focus on both the how we portray things in the product. So like UX UI all the way into our brand.
That's amazing. That's I can't believe that went over my head because I am married to an engineer and he talks about because we have a daughter, so he talks about Grace Hopper all the time, constantly reminding her, that the history of how she,
Mhm. And we actually, so we have
invented
an
engineering.
AI, like we have an AI agent essentially, and we named her Grace for exactly that same reason. We named her after Grace Hopper,
Yes,
who is an inspiration for us all. So,
absolutely. Ah, so good. Outside of work, you organize running events and enjoy puzzles. Do those hobbies influence the way you think about strategy, problem solving, and team alignment?
yes. So one, cyber to me is just one big puzzle, and go to market is one big puzzle for me to solve, and I love that. I love a challenge, and so that's really why I do what I do. It's why I'm excited to do what I do. And then in terms of like running events and other things, I pull in a lot of my own hobbies and interests into what I do. So I love theater. I'm not a theater person, like I don't act, but I enjoy watching it, and I enjoy kind of like the escape room puzzles and murder mystery type stuff. And so I actually did a whole event series. Shout out to Sarah Hartland, former colleague of mine, who
Love
she
Sarah,
is a theater
yes.
person, and so she helped me. She helped me kind of like get the improv actors together and things like that. But like building out the storyline and creating this cybersecurity whodunit and having all of the elements of like the invite is a cipher and you have to have a password to get onto the website to even see when and where it's happening. Like all of those things are just exciting to me. I enjoy those things. And so it's fun to me
Love
to be
it.
able to build all of those things out.
Absolutely. I am in charge of all the team building activities for our annual summit. We get together once a year, and it's just I last year, I did all the New York Times because we went to New York, and we stayed by the library, and so I hiked us all over to the library, and I recreated all the New York Times puzzles for them to figure out what the theme was going to be for the next 36 hours. Yeah, love it. So much fun.
I love pulling in those little fun things because everyone does dinners and everyone does like I hate to say it, like even we do dinners, right? Everyone does dinners, right? It's hard to stand out when you're one of many that's inviting you to a dinner. And so when I'm able to kind of like plan for a larger event, like I like to make them a little more interesting, a little more like engaging, and I don't want to just do like a top golf or something like that. So it's just that's
Yeah.
my own personal preference. It's what I found has resonated over the years. Like I said, my most of my career has really been in B2C. And so I know what works with people, right? And ultimately, our buyers are people. And so finding those things and kind of pulling them in from the B2C market has been most successful.
Amazing. Amazing. Product launches are high pressure. How do you manage the balance of urgency and sustainability for yourself and your team during those intense cycles?
That's a good question. So because we are such a small team, it's really like sometimes product launch cycles they slip, right? And so you know, making sure we're in communication on what the launch cycle looks like. I often like to have my engineers write around write about the product that they're launching because they're the ones that built it, right? Um, and so making sure we're aligned there, I try to do something that's a little more technical, something that's a little less technical, and just kind of making sure that we're just openly communicating with each other because sometimes timelines slip, priorities change, and that's startup life. So
Communication is everything,
yes,
is
communication is
everything.
everything. Absolutely.
Oh, stories I could tell. Last question for you, Valerie. Well, second to last question. Last real question, then I have a fun question. What do you think the next frontier is for marketing and cybersecurity? Where do you see the biggest shift coming in the next few years?
That's a great question. I will tell you, it is like if you're not currently using AI tools, then you're already behind, essentially, right? And I hate saying that because AI is everywhere, and in cyber specifically, everyone is slapping agentic on everything, and they're slapping AI on everything, whether or not it actually makes sense to be there. So I will say though that it's like the shift is not going to be in being able to create content. Content creation is much faster now. I can tell you that like in a day, I can whip out like two really good long form blogs, right? Um,
Mhm,
and but the onus then becomes not on the creation, but on the editing and making sure it's retaining your voice, making sure it's not telling something that's not true, right? Because sometimes a shift of a word will change the meaning, obviously. And so
mhm,
the shift for me that I've really seen is around like content creation. It's really going to be expedited by cyber, or I mean, not by cyber, but by AI within cyber. But that also just means like the expectations are changing. You're expected to create more. As a marketer of one, I'm creating what maybe 2, 3 years ago would have taken 4 to 5 of us to do, right? I'm
I feel
doing
that.
the job of multiple people. And it allows us to stay lean for a long time, which as a seed stage startup, you want to be a little bit lean, right? You
Yeah,
want to be
you have to be to
intentional
protect
in
those margins.
yeah,
Mhm,
you wanna be intentional with how you're spending your money. And so it's really, really nice to be able to do a lot of those things that I would have needed more resources for before, and to do them for very cheap because, you know, LLMs are not that expensive. So,
they are
um,
not,
yeah, so
they are not.
augmenting in that way. I think in cyber marketing, this is absolutely a shift. I will say it's probably a shift in every marketing sector, and specifically like tech marketing. As long as you can feed it, um, as long as you can feed it other content that is of your brand voice and is accurate in what you want to talk about, and then kind of like giving it parameters. If you're tight with parameters, it's actually like it's great. It's a great tool, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah,
analyzing data. So
yeah, I mean, garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you're just having it regurgitate the internet, you're in trouble. But if you're feeding it proprietary, unique content coming from the inside that then's help and then it's helping you curate it, that's a completely different story, and it absolutely helps you move at the speed of light. It's
yes, I cannot agree
wild.
more. I will say, make sure you're using a closed model because you don't want to train other people's models
No,
on your
you do not.
content. Yes.
No, you do not. Pay for it, don't use a free version, pay for it. And find the right one. There's so many out there now, and they're all getting better. So, between Google's Gemini, Claude, and ChatGPT, I'm hearing more and more people say that ChatGPT is not keeping up. So, have to see, yeah, what people are using. Valerie, this has been amazing. I could keep talking to you. I have follow-up questions for days. But, alright, we are at time. I do wanna know, outside of work, outside of being a cybersecurity marketer, what is bringing you joy right now in this moment in time?
Love that. So family brings me joy. My partner and I have 3 kids between the 2 of us, and they are just the light of my life. Also our 3 dogs who like to
Oh
interrupt
my
calls
god.
at times. So
It's like 6 kids right there.
there's a lot of them. There's a lot of dogs, there's a lot of kids, but it's
I love
great.
it.
It brings me a lot of joy.
That's amazing. Ages for the kids?
We have a 10, a 9.5, and a 5-year-old for the kids.
I have 2 10-year-old I'm about to have 2 10-year-olds, so, yeah, that's a transitional age.
It is
I
in
will say
fact a transitional age. You have boys though, right?
boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl, that's right. I was gonna say because it's very different between boys and girls. I see this with my friends and their kids. It's girl mom versus boy mom is a different world. You get both.
The joy, the joy. Oh my gosh, Valerie, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to our listeners and for our audience. I know there was some commenting happening. I can't wait to hang on out on LinkedIn and see what's going on and join the conversation. I'm grateful for you. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. This episode is brought to you by MKG Marketing. We manage the details and you capture the market. If you enjoyed this episode, you'll love similar episodes from Carmen Angel Harris on RSA for Real Talk and Ken Marshall on how AI is shaking up B2B marketing. Thank you all so much. See
Thanks
you
for
next
having me.
time.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Val.